Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this month's Author Take the Wheel, a live interview here on Facebook. My name is Hope Gibbs, and today we are joined by the fabulous author who has taken over our Facebook page this week with some incredible posts about her travels around the world. I believe on Monday, she told us she has visited 102 countries and lived on a ship for 5 years. Don't worry, I'm going to ask more about it. So without further ado, this is Linda Moore, author of Attribution. Hello, Linda.
Hey, Hope. It's so great to be with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. I have so enjoyed your book. I have enjoyed your post, and I am so excited to talk about this right now. Yes, that book. I love it. So before we get started, I would like to give our audience a little bit of your background by reading your bio. So here we go. Linda Moore is an author, a traveler, and a recovering gallery owner. She studied art history at the Prado while a student at the University of Madrid and earned degrees from the University of California and Stanford. Her gallery featured contemporary artists, and she has published award-winning exhibition catalogs. Her writing has appeared in art journals and anthologies, and she has looked at art on all continents and has visited over 102 countries. She resides with her book collecting husband in California, and her debut novel, Attribution, is about an art historian who finds a hidden masterpiece, and it is available wherever books are sold. So, again, Linda, thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. Really, it's been so fun interacting with all of the people on the Bookish road trip. And I've met many new people and heard all about their travels and their interests and their books and the books they like to read. It's fun, lots of fun.
It has been so much fun. So we have already Barbara Conry. Good afternoon, Barbara. And so if anyone out there would like to comment or ask a question, I will do my best to get to them. Just let us know who we're talking to, because sometimes we can't always see your name. Oh, we have Grace. Hello, Grace. She is thanking you for being here and having a
Oh,
great
my
week.
pleasure. Hello,
So,
everybody.
so let's talk about your fantastic book. And could you please give us a little bit of a synopsis? But before we do, I think you have some big news about that book.
Oh, well, last weekend I was at the Independent Book Publishers Association, and Attribution took the Silver Winner Award in General Fiction. And when I was told thousands of people enter that contest, plus it's decided by book publishers and judges that they choose. So I was, really thrilled that all this work is recognized by somebody besides your five best friends and your family, right?
Absolutely. Well, congratulations. So
Thank
tell us
you.
about this award-winning book.
Attribution is the story of Kate Adamson, who is trying to help her family that's grieving the loss of her brother who drowned. Uh, and she realizes the best way she can help them is make a good life for herself. So she returns to school in New York to complete her doctorate, but bumps up right away against a very misogynistic professor who won't approve any of her dissertation topics. She despairs that she's going to be kicked out of the program, another disappointment for her family, and until she finds a hidden painting in the university basement. And she decides to take the painting over the holidays to Spain and find the experts to prove it's a masterpiece of the Baroque Golden Age era. And I won't tell you too much more because I want people to read it, but she has quite an adventure in Spain. It changes her life, and you think you know how it's going to end, but trust me, you don't.
I agree with that. So I love this book. We talked about it a little bit earlier before everyone else joined us. Could you tell us what inspired you to write this book, a book
Well,
in the art world?
It was a very specific incident. Around 2009, I heard an art curator give a talk at the San Diego Museum of Art about attributing a painting. And I was riveted between all of the sort of connoisseurship and these people who look and look and look at paintings and think they've got the eye to spot them, plus all of the research chemistry of pigments and age dating wood bits, and also the fibers of canvas, but x-rays underneath. I mean, science has brought this world of attribution a long way. But then you layer over that all the politics that this young man talked about. And I was I just thought, this is like a detective story. This is so fascinating. And I filed it away for about 6 years. And I was working on another book, and I went back to school to study writing fiction, novel writing at Stanford in their program. And I, you know, had kind of put the book aside and forgotten about it. And then when I finished the program, I decided I was going to, now that I had better skills to write this book, that I begin to write it. And I had so much fun doing it. I have to say, the research was fascinating. I went to Spain a couple of times during the writing of the book, and it was really quite a joy. And hopefully readers feel that in the book, that that it wasn't work at all. It was just pleasure.
It was a lovely book, and it was kind of hard to classify because at one point it's a little bit of a mystery, a little bit of a thriller, and then there's an element of romance in it. So what do you classify it as?
Life.
Exactly.
I mean, it. I get frustrated. I don't know about you, but trying to pigeonhole books
Yes.
into, so what do we say? We come up with words like contemporary fiction, or, uh, a mashup, I think, is another thing. I mean, it isn't a mystery in that there's no murders or that sort of thing. It's a puzzle, trying to figure out a puzzle. And I was surprised some 30% of my audience is men, and I think it's because they like trying to figure out the puzzle. Um, and it's not really a thriller. I told the publisher no one even needs a band-aid, that I recall. I think maybe she gets a splinter, but nobody gets hurt. There's no real violence. But it is, for me, it's about telling a story.
Mhm.
I love a good story myself. I get disappointed when we are sort of retelling stories that have already been told. And there are those who say that there's only, 5 stories or something, and they're all just mix-ups of each other. But I I think there are unique stories out there, and I love to hear a new story. And of course, characters make the stories work, but the two together can be really wonderful. And that's the kind of book I like to read.
Well, let's talk about the characters. And your main protagonist, Kate, from the first 5 pages, I was invested in her life. I wanted to know everything about her. I mean, she's an overachiever. She wants to prove herself in, kind of a male dominated world. Can you tell us a little bit where she came to life? How did you create her?
Well, they say all novels are autobiographical. So I won't try. I would never stolen a painting. Let me just make that clear from the beginning. But I think that there are elements of my own experience. Surely the time I spent in academia, I met people who were like Jones. And I kind of had fun because one of the people who blurbed the book is Edward Sullivan, who is the chair of the art history department at NYU, and a friend. And when he read the arc of the book, and he called me up and he said, "Linda, I want to go on Zoom and talk with you, and I want to write a big academic type response." So now I'm terrified. So because I think, oh, he doesn't even want to put it in writing. It's so bad. So we got together and he told me a couple things. So, well, the first thing is you cannot have churros at a staff meeting at the Prado. That won't work. So I go, okay, no churros at the staff meeting. We'll have chocolates instead. And I think that's the way it reads now. And then he said, and the other thing is, we have all of these policies and procedures and anonymous hotlines. And maybe there's a dinosaur or two around the university, but we really don't have this issue anymore, where, professors treat women differentially. So I said, okay, thank you, Edward. And I decided to go ask 20, 30 something young women who'd been to graduate school recently and for their experiences, because yes, it's been a few years for me. And you know what? Every single one of them told me, "Oh yeah, I had that guy for biochemistry and I had him for contract law." And I mean, I was never so disappointed to be right
Yeah.
that it still continues. And I've had women in book clubs and so forth say, "So when these things happen to you, what did you do about them?"
Mhm.
And the truth is nothing. So I thought, well, maybe if I put that in the book, it will start to help academic administrators like my friend to begin to realize and sort of open their eyes to what it is like sometimes when your work is dismissed and you are dismissed.
Mhm.
And so I'm sort of, maybe we're starting a movement or something, but I'm glad that I didn't back down from putting that characterization in the book.
Well, I absolutely love Kate, and I like that she just didn't roll over. She went for it, and so she was a very relatable character. Kind of she was inspiring to me.
Oh, yay.
So this book is about art. I mean, and you write about it in such detail. I can't even imagine the amount of research you did for this book. Can you tell us a little bit about your experiences in the art world, having been a gallery owner? How did that translate into your own writing?
Well, I've been around the art world since the late 90s. And before that, I was a collector. And of course, you have your own impressions. But once you get involved in that niche, you realize, like every field, there's the good, bad, and the ugly. And and I also have been a trustee at museums, quite a few, and advisory on others, and so on. So you sort of learn a little bit the ins and outs, and also talking to these museum professionals. It's a complicated world. There are titans who have their turf to protect, and in that way, it's not a whole lot different from a lot of businesses, but it does make interesting characters and interesting drama. And I think in the end of the day, the attribution is about doing the right thing, about the truth, finding and trying to understand the truth, which is a journey. It's not easy. It isn't often just straightforward black and white. And then once you feel you know it, what do you do with it? And considering all of that, I think there are a lot of themes that are much broader than the art world. That the art world is just a backdrop
Yeah.
for a lot of the books.
So the painting that Kate stumbles across in this basement, she calls it, is it La Gloria? Is that what she
Yes, yes.
entitles it? Can you
Mhm.
tell us what was your inspiration for La Gloria?
Well, obviously, I had to study a lot of works by the artist that is mentioned. I don't think I want to say his name for those who haven't read the book, but I looked at a lot of paint. So it had to be something that could have been painted by him, a
Mhm.
subject, and in a style and the sort of, types of the times, the other cultural aspects of the times. So that was really important. People have asked me if La Gloria is the painting on the cover, and it's not. That's a real painting. It's in the National Gallery of London, and it is by Velázquez, and it's called the Rokeby Venus. It's the only nude we have that's painted by Velázquez. And there's a lot of layers to that painting, a lot of unanswered questions, which of course make it fantastic for a fiction writer, because then we get to make up stories about the missing parts, right? Um, and uh, and so La Gloria sort of just roughly formed in my head. I had someone suggest I get one of my artists to actually produce La Gloria in a painting. Maybe I will, but I think everyone will be disappointed. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
each of you have a vision in your mind of what it looks like. And it's difficult when you're dealing with a visual art to describe it with words in a way that people can, really capture the essence of it. So probably I won't have anyone paint a La Gloria, but it'll be a symbol in our mind. And of course, the name, right,
Yeah.
is a metaphor in itself.
Do you mind holding up your cover again? Because
Oh, not at all.
this cover is probably one of my absolute favorite covers of the entire year. I
Oh, wow.
love it. It's so stunning. I think it's the colors, and again, it's the corner of the painting. It's just I adore it. So
Thank you. Well, the cover actually won an award too. I didn't mention,
you did
but it
not
won a
mention
Da
that.
Vinci Award. It won the Da Vinci Award, and it is. I'm sorry. It was a like was second place of the Da Vinci Award, but that's pretty good because there's a lot of books in that particular competition. And I really, Julie Metz, I always want to give the artist credit, was the cover designer of this
Beautiful.
cover.
Well, Michelle, thank you for joining us. She says, I love the cover too. We also have a Facebook user who really liked your, what is this genre? It's life. Agreed. We've got Linda joining us as well. So again, keep bringing those comments and we're going to try to get to them. So here at Bookish Road Trip, we are doing a game. I don't know if anyone out there knows about it, but it is our reading challenge and it's the bingo game. And so if you read a book, you just download the bingo card. And when you read a book that fits the actual box, you get to check it off. And if you get obviously the diagonal or horizontal, you get a bingo. So this book, your book Attribution, it literally checked off 3 boxes for me. Not that you can include them all, but for those of you out there who haven't had a chance to read it, if you read this book, you're going to have at least 3 opportunities. The Hidden in Time, which is mystery, secret, or hidden or buried. That's obviously check that off. Culture, it could be museums, which she's in museums through this, or wanders to places. She's traveling alone in a strange country. So again, if you haven't done your bingo reading challenge, it's not too late. So keep doing those. So now I want to shift a little gears here, and I want to talk about you as a writer. Here at Bookish Road Trip, we have lots of passionate readers. We also have published authors and we have aspiring writers. Could you tell us a little bit about your road to publication? How did you go from writing that very first sentence to having a manuscript to actually being a published author?
Well, I was at a big book club last night in Palos Verdes, which is near Los Angeles, and took the red eye. I'm in Boston now, so just a little crazed here. And somebody asked me that a similar question. I didn't start out really to write this book, but I had that inspiration. And I have to say, COVID helped me. I mean, maybe, it's hard to think of anything good from COVID, but I'm such a go here, go there kind of person. I was traveling so much. And all of you who might write know that you need to focus, and having big chunks of time where you can really get into your story and live with your characters, and what they call the fictive dream, right? That you're just in that other world. it was really difficult with the life I was living. And now, when COVID came, of course, all that ended. And I loved being home. I loved being with my book. I loved doing all that research, and I could order books to my front door that I needed to do the research. And having that quiet time really got me to the goal. I listened to online webinars about publishing and different publishing options. I decided, because I'm old after all, and that I wanted something that would go quickly and that I could easily get to a book instead of waiting and waiting and querying 100 agents and so on. So I chose this route, and I mean, we have a publisher. It's a hybrid publisher called She Writes Press, and I like to think of it as I'm co-investing in my book.
Yes.
And there are some benefits to that, and including, especially with this particular publisher, is we have traditional distribution, and we can never underestimate distribution, because it is often the threshold that bookstores won't work with you unless they can get the books in an easy fashion for their business. So I had time. I had time to dig in and pull the layers back and then figure out how to do it. And the book came out in October 22. And, we were just winding up with the second round of vaccines in early 22. So I think I can't speak about the book without that historical epidemic being part of the story.
And how long did it take from the time you had the idea to the date it was published? Was it?
Well, I had the idea in 2009 when I heard that lecture,
Mhm.
but I didn't actually pick it up and start writing until I finished the Stanford program, and that was around 2015. So I had 7 years with this book.
Wow.
And I know.
Yeah.
It's a long time. But did that mean I was writing rigorously every day in my chair? No. Because I was at the same time also traveling all over the place. But I love writing on airplanes,
Really?
especially red eyes, because that no one bothers you.
Mhm.
You just focus. It's all quiet, and you can't get up and go anywhere or turn on the TV. It's
Oh,
pretty much you are in writer prison. So that's good for a distractible type like me.
so let's talk about your travels, because at the beginning I told everyone, because you mentioned it in your first, I think it was your first post this week, you've traveled to 102 countries. Is that right?
Yes, more or less. But depending how you count, and there are different, is that a country or not a country? I mean, there's a lot of complexities in counting countries, but there are about 200 countries. So I'm only halfway there. Can you imagine? Um, and a lot of that I did while we lived on this ship. That is the best way to describe it. It's like a floating condominium where
Mhm.
you own the apartment. It's not a timeshare. It's not cruising. You own the apartment, and you come and go to your apartment. And that is where the ship is. And the ship's itinerary is decided by the apartment owners. So we have a committee, and they work together and come up with 3 options, and we vote on them. And then that decides where we end up going. Of course, they change things. COVID changed a lot. And the and we don't own the apartment anymore. I do miss it. I hope to be back on in the Chilean fjords in the end of the year. But it is an extraordinary experience to be able to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning, and there you are in Indonesia or Vanuatu or Madagascar. Or, we went a lot of strange places. But I love how engaged your audience is on the post with all of these comments about countries they have visited, they'd like to visit. I mean, your audience has places I've not been. So I'm kind of energized now again to travel.
Well, you're the perfect fit for Bookish Road Trip because you're well traveled. You're an author. It was a perfect fit, and I just loved it. And so, how do you think that being a world traveler that you are, how do you think that affected you as a writer? Do you think it was a benefit? Obviously, it is. So, how do you think it affected you?
Well, I I think there's a lot to be gained by honing your observation skills.
Hmm.
Just like I took a class not too long ago, an intensive class in dialogue. And when you're and what you learn is dialogue is not just the words people say. It's
Hmm.
often the words they don't say, or the silences, or the gestures, and so on. So when you're in an airport, when you're in a restaurant in some different country, you realize that this method of communicating, it changes with different cultures.
Hmm.
And being a keen observer is something I think we all should aspire to for a lot of reasons, but certainly as a writer, it helps you to look for those fine details that make scenes believable
Yes.
and interesting.
So let's talk about your next book. What are you working on? What can our audience anticipate coming their way?
Well, the next book is called 5 Days in Bogota, and it has quite a story because it was actually the first book I wrote, and I submitted it to a contest. And not only did I lose, I didn't win anything, but the judges kind of gave me some harsh comments. I kept those. And
Hmm.
that was what inspired me to go back to school. So after I finished, this actually is the third novel, right?
Hmm.
Attribution is the third novel. So I finished another novel, and I decided that the story of 5 Days in Bogota was a really good story, but it wasn't well written. And since I'd been to school, I'd written two more novels.
Hmm.
I felt like now is the time when I can uh, do this story justice with quality writing. So the story is recently widowed art gallery owner with two small children is desperate for money because the life insurance hasn't paid. So she has to pay the bills with the gallery. And a New Yorker friend says, "You should go to this art fair in Bogota. It's the early 90s, which was the worst of the drug
Hmm.
cartel fighting, although it's still going on." Um, and so she hopes to meet wealthy collectors down there. What could go wrong, right? Lots. So I'm having some fun with that, but also I love the idea of setting it in Colombia, completely different place from Spain. And on the Bookish road trip, we have photos of both of those places, so that your readers can begin to visualize what might be in the story. And we are, yeah, so it comes out in May of next year, a year from now.
And is
And
it going to be
I'm
right?
heavy in edits and, kind of, right before I got on the plane to Boston, I finished the first round of editing, so that felt good. And and I think, what is this, revision 5? So I've been with this book for a bit, but I'm excited to share the story because the I had a pretty sophisticated editor. He's a big novelist himself, Ron Curry, and he likes the concept of the story.
Well,
And
it sounds fantastic. And is it going to also be with She Writes Press?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I just, again, I felt I don't have the bandwidth or the time to learn some other publisher or agent's system of doing things. And I just am staying with what I know. And we have a good partnership. So I'm happy. I think they produced a really quality book. I'm happy with the way, it's funny, all the details of a book are so much more than the reader realizes. The
Mhm.
design of the interior and the quality of the binding and things that you never think about.
Well, it is fantastic. We also have a Facebook user who says, I have been enjoying your photos and your stories. I totally agree. And I cannot thank you enough. You have been doing our basically our Facebook page as you're traveling across the country. And we cannot thank you enough. And I know our audience, they're going to want to keep up with you. And could you please tell them where they can keep up with you on social media and your website? And I have to say, you have probably one of the most impressive author websites I have ever seen. So could you tell them how they can stay in
Well,
touch with you?
thanks, Hope. Yeah, the lindamoreauthor.com is the website. If you hit the contact button, it'll send me an email directly, and I always answer all my emails myself. And I am on Instagram, Linda Moore Author, and also Facebook, Linda Moore Author. I'd love you to follow. Mention that you saw me here, and we'll send you a special treat. Also, tomorrow there's a video that I think you'll be surprised. I'm going to share a recipe. So be sure to catch us tomorrow on
Well,
Bookish Road Trip.
I am so excited, and I'm thrilled that we still have you today and tomorrow. Again, Linda, incredible week, fantastic book. I cannot thank you enough for all your hard work. And next month, on June the 8th at 1 o'clock, we are going to be joined by Robert Waltney, and we're going to be talking about his Southern book, The Cicada Tree. So again, Linda, thank you, and everyone who joined us. Until next time.
Thank you, Hope.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.